Imagine walking out of a concrete tunnel into this ridiculously steep, bowl-shaped crater. Above you, there are like 83,000 people screaming so loudly that you can literally feel your ribs vibrating in your chest.
Oh man, yeah. The noise there is just physical.
Right, it's intense. You look down at the grass and you realize you aren't just playing a football match tomorrow.
Yeah.
I mean, you are stepping into a mythological coliseum, one that is honestly haunted by the ghosts of Pele and Diego Maradona. Welcome to Clean Sheet HQ, everyone.
Glad to be here for this one.
Yeah, because today is Wednesday, June 10th, 2026, and we are standing on the absolute precipice of sports history. Tomorrow, June 11th, the biggest World Cup ever staged officially kicks off. We are talking 48 teams, 104 matches spread across Canada, Mexico, and the United States.
It's massive. I mean, it really is the perfect moment to just take a breath and analyze this because the sheer scale of what begins tomorrow is, well, it's almost difficult to wrap your head around.
Yeah.
We are not just looking at a standard opening match here. We're looking at this crazy collision of history, intense geography, and just pure, unfiltered sporting pressure.
And the mission for this deep dive is to get you, the listener, completely prepped for that monumental opener between hosts Mexico and South Africa. We are going to dig into the incredibly specific history between these two squads, how the tactical battle will actually unfold on that historic pitch, and, of course, the superstars you need to keep your eyes on.
Yeah, and we also need to talk about what this single game means for their survival in this massive new tournament format, right?
Yep.
Because everything has changed.
Completely. So let's start with the stage itself. Tomorrow, the Estadio Azteca in Mexico City becomes the first stadium in the history of football to host 3 World Cup opening matches.
Yeah.
1970, 1986, and now 2026.
That is just an unbelievable record.
It really is. I mean, it even holds the Under-17 World Cup attendance record. There were nearly 99,000 fans packed in there back in 2011. But look, I have to play devil's advocate here for a second.
Okay, go for it.
I get that the Azteca is intimidating. But we are talking about modern professionals. These guys play in the Premier League, they play in the Champions League, they face hostile crowds literally every single week. Does playing in a historic stadium really dictate the game, or is that just, a romantic media narrative?
No, that is a completely fair pushback. If it were just crowd noise, then yeah, elite professionals could probably just tune it out. But the Azteca isn't just loud, it is like a physiological and architectural trap.
A trap? How so?
Well, first look at the design. The stands are notoriously steep. The fans are pitched almost vertically over the field, which traps the sound and directs it straight down onto the grass. It creates this totally suffocating acoustic environment.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize the architecture actually pushed the sound down like that.
Yeah, it's wild. But the real hidden variable, the thing that changes the tactics entirely, is the geography.
You're talking about the altitude, right? Exactly. Mexico City sits at over 7,200 feet above sea level. For context, that is significantly higher than Denver, Colorado.
That's crazy.
It is. And when you play at that altitude, 2 massive things happen to the mechanics of the game. Number 1, the air is thinner, which means less oxygen is getting to the player's muscles. Stamina drains exponentially faster if you aren't fully acclimatized.
Makes sense. Your lungs are just burning.
Right. And number 2, thinner air means less aerodynamic drag on the football itself.
Wait, really? So the ball actually behaves differently?
Dramatically differently. Like passes that would normally drop perfectly onto a striker's foot will suddenly just sail 10 yards out of bounds. Shots from outside the penalty box travel like absolute rockets because there's just less air resistance slowing them down.
Okay, wow. That completely reframes things. So it's not just ghosts, it's actual physics.
Exactly. So for a visiting team like South Africa, the Azteca is basically a nightmare combination. You have deafening noise that disrupts all your communication, suffocating air that burns your lungs, and a ball that feels like it's been overinflated.
Okay, speaking of ghosts, though, there is a very specific one haunting this exact matchup. It's a storyline so perfectly symmetrical, it almost feels written by a Hollywood screenwriter.
Oh, I know exactly where you're going with this.
The last time Mexico and South Africa met in a World Cup was exactly 16 years ago to the day, June 11th, 2010.
It is such an incredible quirk of the fixture list because 16 years ago, the roles were entirely reversed. South Africa was the host nation. The entire world was watching Johannesburg.
And it was also the opening match. I mean, the noise of those vuvuzelas was just deafening. You had South Africa taking the lead with Sifiwe Tshabalala's absolute thunderbolt of a strike. The stadium just erupted.
I still get chills thinking about that goal. It was iconic.
Same. But then Who lost that day? Nobody. Rafael Marquez, the legendary Mexican defender, he kind of ghosts in at the back post late in the game to rescue a 1-1 draw. They shared the points.
Right, they did.
But here is my question. The score was even then, but the psychological dynamic tomorrow is, well, it's completely flipped. South Africa isn't riding the wave of home country euphoria anymore. They are walking into the lion's den. How does that change their mindset?
Oh, it changes absolutely everything. I mean, if we look at the psychological mechanics of 2010, Bafana carried the hopes of the entire African continent on their shoulders.
Yeah, there's a ton of pressure.
It really was. It was a beautiful burden, but a very heavy one.
Mhm.
Every time they touched the ball, the expectation to perform magic was immense. But tomorrow, they step onto the pitch completely free of that burden.
So they have nothing to lose,
So
basically.
exactly. They are no longer the hosts throwing the party, right? They are the uninvited guests looking to ruin it.
They're the assassins in the dark.
Precisely. And that is a vastly different and honestly an incredibly dangerous psychological state. Mexico, conversely, has inherited all of that home soil pressure now.
Which is heavy.
Oh, incredibly heavy. Javier Aguirre, Mexico's coach, knows that every single one of those 83,000 Mexican fans expects them not just to win, but to dominate right from the first whistle.
Which means the crowd doesn't just create noise, it basically dictates the geometry of the pitch. Like, if the fans demand aggressive attacking football, Aguirre's basically forced to push his team forward, right?
Yeah, he really doesn't have a choice.
And he has El Tri unbeaten in their last 8 matches, so they have the confidence. But if he pushes his fullbacks like the wide defensive players way up the field to join the attack, isn't he playing exactly into South Africa's hands?
You've hit the nail on the head. This is exactly where the tactics get fascinating. Coach Hugo Bruce has South Africa looking incredibly disciplined lately.
Yeah, they've been solid.
They are returning to the World Cup for the first time since 2010, and they are built to absorb pressure. They are going to use what we call a deep defensive block.
Okay, let's unpack that for the folks at the watch party tomorrow.
Yeah.
What exactly does a deep block look like in practice?
Okay, so imagine taking the entire South African team and packing them into the final third of the field, right on top of their own penalty box.
The wall of bodies.
Exactly. Instead of chasing the Mexican players all over this massive pitch, they just stand shoulder to shoulder, creating a dense human maze. They basically concede possession of the ball in the middle of the field.
So they're saying to Mexico, go ahead, pass it around out there all you want.
Right. They're saying to score, you have to find a way through this wall.
So it's kind of like a rubber band. Mexico's going to push their players higher and higher up the field, trying to find a gap in that human wall. They are stretching their formation, creating all this immense forward tension.
Yes, that's a perfect analogy.
And South Africa's entire game plan is just waiting for that rubber band to stretch as far as it can possibly go, leaving a massive empty space in Mexico's half of the field. And the second Mexico makes a mistake, South Africa snaps the rubber band back and sprints into that empty space.
That is the exact mechanism. Mexico is going to have the ball for maybe 65% of the game. But the pressure on them in that opening 45 minutes is going to be suffocating.
Because they have the ball, but they can't do anything with it.
Right, and because of the altitude and the nerves, you can expect a really frenetic start. Passes might be overhit, tackles might be rash. South Africa's deep block is going to make scoring incredibly difficult early on.
And that plays into the stamina issue, too.
Exactly. Remember the altitude factor we discussed. South Africa sitting in a deep block isn't just a defensive strategy, it is an energy conservation strategy. They are literally letting Mexico do all the running in the thin air, just waiting for them to tire out.
It sounds like it might be a seriously frustrating first half for the fans in the Coliseum. I mean, they're going to want a blowout, and they might get a chess match instead.
Very likely, yeah. But as the game wears on, the sheer quality and depth of the Mexican squad should allow them to take control. Most models predict a tight 2-1 victory for Mexico.
Just because of sheer talent.
Right, largely because they just have the firepower to eventually crack that code in the second half.
But, tactics only look good on a whiteboard. Ultimately, it takes individual brilliance, or like individual mistakes, to execute them on the grass. So let's get into the stars to watch a Clean Sheet HQ special focus.
Always my favorite part. Let's do it.
For Mexico, the engine of this team is their captain, Edson Álvarez. Then we have the striker, Santiago Giménez, who is absolutely lethal. We have the veteran Raúl Jiménez providing an aerial threat, and Johan Vázquez anchoring the central defense.
A really solid core.
Yeah, but explain Alvarez to me, because everyone calls him a metronome, but what does that actually mean mechanically during the game?
Okay, so when we call a holding midfielder like Alvarez a metronome, we mean he dictates the literal speed of the game. Like when he receives the ball, he isn't just looking to pass it right away.
He's analyzing things.
Exactly. He is scanning the entire field, assessing the panic level of his own team.
Uh,
If the crowd is getting frantic and the Mexican players are rushing their passes, Alvarez will purposely slow down.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he will put his foot on the ball, point to his teammates to calm down, and make a simple, safe pass to just reset the rhythm. He is the emotional shock absorber for the team.
That makes total sense.
Right. So if South Africa can pressure him and force him into a panic, the entire Mexican structure kind of crumbles.
That puts an immense amount of responsibility on one guy. Now let's flip to South Africa. Their core is totally built for this counterattacking spoiler role. In goal, you have Ronwen Williams, who is elite.
One of the best in Africa, easily.
Yeah. You have Teboho Mokoena acting as the destroyer in the midfield. And up top, the guy everyone will be watching is Percy Tau. Plus, Mathobi Mavala holding down the defense.
Let's talk about Percy Tau against Johan Vasquez, because that feels like the collision point of the entire match to me.
Oh, it absolutely is.
So how does a guy like Tau actually break down a disciplined defender like Vasquez?
It's all a game of microscopic movements. Percy Tau doesn't just rely on, straight line Olympic sprinter speed. He uses incredible spatial awareness.
How does that look on the pitch?
Well, let's say Mexico pushes forward and the rubber band stretches, like we talked about. Tau will position himself exactly in Vasquez's blind spot. That's the space just over the defender's shoulder where he can't see the ball and the attacker at the exact same time.
Oh, man. So Vasquez has to constantly turn his head back and forth like he's crossing a busy street.
Exactly. And the split second, Vasquez turns his head to look at the ball. Tau darts into the open space. He forces Vasquez to make a really terrible choice.
What? He either has to step up aggressively and try to intercept the ball, which leaves a gaping hole behind him if he misses, or he has to backpedal toward his own goal, which gives Tau the time and space to gather the ball and run full speed at the penalty box.
That sounds like a nightmare for a defender.
Yeah.
And on the other end, Ronwen Williams in goal for South Africa isn't going to have a quiet night either, right? He's going to face an absolute bombardment from Santiago Giménez and Raul Jiménez.
Oh, without a doubt.
Giménez is a master at finding half yards of space in the box, and Jiménez is basically a tank in the air.
And that is exactly where the altitude physics come back into play. Remember, crosses into the penalty area are going to travel slightly faster and flatter because of the thin air.
Oh, right. So the timing is all messed up.
Precisely. Williams won't just need to make reflex saves on the goal line. He will need to command his penalty area. He has to aggressively come out and catch those crosses before Jimenez can get his head on them.
So if he hesitates at all.
If Williams is hesitant, Mexico will score from a set piece or a wide cross. Simple as that.
It really is a fascinating collision of styles. Okay, I want to zoom out for a second, though. Tomorrow's opening night is guaranteed fireworks, but it is just game 1 of 104. What does the rest of the tournament look like for these two teams?
It's a grueling road, that's for sure.
Let's start with Mexico. They have a massive logistical advantage. I mean, they play all 3 of their group stage games at home. After tomorrow, they head to Guadalajara on June 18th, and then back to Mexico City on June 24th.
Right, they barely have to travel.
But I have a huge question about their actual ceiling. Can a team really ride home field advantage all the way to a World Cup trophy?
History tells us it's incredibly difficult. Realistically, the consensus among analysts is that Mexico's ceiling is reaching the round of 16, or perhaps the quarterfinals if they get a favorable draw.
So winning it all is a stretch.
Challenging for the actual title would require them to drastically exceed expectations. I mean, home advantage is a massive tailwind, but eventually you run into the elite European or South American squads.
The heavy hitters.
Exactly. Their rosters are packed top to bottom with Champions League winners. The talent gap at the very pinnacle of the sport is just a massive wall to climb.
That makes sense. For South Africa, the expectations are obviously very different. Just advancing out of the group stage would be a monumental achievement for them.
Oh, huge.
If they can manage to frustrate Mexico and steal a point, or even pull off an upset victory, they instantly become the darling underdog story of the entire tournament.
They absolutely would. Everybody loves that story.
Oh, wait, let's talk about the format, because this is the first time we are seeing 48 teams. We've added a whole new knockout round, the round of 32.
Yeah, that changes the whole dynamic.
Right. If reaching the quarterfinals was hard for Mexico in the old 32-team format, Doesn't this new format actually make it much harder for a team like Mexico to build momentum?
That is the hidden variable of this entire month. The mathematics of survival have changed. With 48 teams, the path to the final is literally longer.
Just mathematics.
Right. That new round of 32 means one more grueling, high-stakes physical battle. It means 90 more minutes of potential injuries. It means one more chance to accumulate yellow cards and face suspensions.
And the giants of the sport, like the teams like France, Brazil, or England, they have the bench depth to handle that, right? They can swap out 5 world-class players for 5 other world-class players.
Exactly. The Giants can rotate their squads to manage fatigue without dropping their quality. But for a team like Mexico, or certainly South Africa, who rely heavily on a core group of maybe 13 or 14 starting caliber players, that extra game is a brutal physical hurdle.
Because they just get exhausted.
Yeah, the expanded format absolutely makes a deep Cinderella run much more difficult to sustain because attrition becomes a massive factor.
It totally changes the calculus. You aren't just playing the opponent in front of you. You are managing your team's physical battery life over an extra week of football.
That's a great way to put it.
Okay, let's bring this deep dive to a close. The stakes for tomorrow are just absolutely staggering. There is a palpable touch of destiny in this matchup.
There really is.
16 years after Johannesburg, Mexico begins a dream journey in front of its own fans, desperate to harness the energy of the Azteca rather than be crushed by its history. Meanwhile, South Africa walks back onto the grandest stage, looking to play the ultimate spoiler.
It is the perfect narrative to open a tournament of this magnitude. And, before you head to your watch party tomorrow, I want to leave you with a final thought to ponder while you watch the game.
Ooh, late on us.
Given this newly expanded 48-team format, we have 12 groups of 4 teams. Not only do the top 2 teams advance, but the 8 best third-place teams also go through to that new round of 32.
Okay, so more teams get through.
Right. Consider how that subtly changes the psychological weight of a draw tomorrow. Back in 2010, when these two shared a 1-1 draw, it felt like a dramatic, hard-fought shared victory because the math was so tight.
Yeah, every point felt like life or death.
But tomorrow, with a potentially more forgiving group stage math, where a single point might actually be enough to scrape through as a third-place team, will sharing the points feel like a comfortable safety net?
Ah, I see. Or, because they both desperately want to build early momentum, will a draw feel like a devastating missed opportunity?
Exactly. The psychology of a draw is totally different now.
That is the million-dollar question. Does a point keep the Wolves at bay, or does it leave you exposed when the tournament really gets going?
I guess we'll see.
We will find out tomorrow when the whistle blows and they step onto that mythological grass. Thank you for prepping with Clean Sheet HQ. Enjoy the start of football's greatest spectacle. And remember, when that crowd roars tomorrow in Mexico City, listen closely. You might just hear the echoes of 1970 and 1986 roaring right back. Enjoy the match, everyone.